Killer bees. How do the general public see the so-called killer bees, Africanized honeybees? Hives of horror, excited by the smell of fear, they inflict their deadly stings. Yeah. Check out this trailer for the movie Killer Bees. This is also known as Bee-nado. Check this out.
For generations, the people of Sumas have depended on the gentle honeybee for their livelihood. But this harvest, a new species will threaten their very existence.
Because of one man's crazed bee food. These are killer bees. Killer bees attacking people over at the farmer's market.
All the farmers in Sumas are a traitor.
Slim, you don't happen to have any bees over that way right now, do you?
Tracy Nelson. Killer bees.
I've been stung once, but it ain't gonna happen again.
Okay, so a lot of people ask about killer bees. Killer bees, let's talk about the real thing for a minute. What are killer bees? Well, first of all, killer bees are the same as any other bees. They're just honeybees. They're a different race of bees. They grew up in Africa. Apis mellifera scutellata is their proper name. And in Africa, they evolved with more predators than what they have in other places. They have honey badgers and things like that. In 1956, there was a Brazilian geneticist who was named Dr. Warwick Carr, and he imported 63 queens from South Africa, okay? And his thought was, living in Brazil, it's a very hot country, and European honeybees are pretty much evolved in colder weather. And so he was trying to hybridize and breed a bee that was more cold hardy, or I should say warm hardy, and could also produce a lot of honey in a hot climate. And so he was doing experiments with his 63 queens, and he was hybridizing and growing them. But he was taking very good care of them and keeping them confined, okay? So what had happened was, in 1957, an assistant beekeeper who was there in the area, he went around and he saw the queen excluders in front of the entrances of the beehives. Now, queen excluders is kind of a mesh, and it's small enough so that worker bees can go in and out, but queens and drones can't go in and out of the hive. They're too big, right? So he thought that the bees were having a hard time getting in and out of the hives, so he removed all the queen excluders and unleashed the bees. He let the Africanized bees swarm out. Now, a couple of things about Africanized bees. They're still the same bee. They look just the same as our bees. If a bee stings you, it's going to die just like our bees do. But these are Africanized, okay? They swarm a lot more often than our European honeybees do. And they travel a lot farther. An Africanized bee swarm can travel up to 60 miles. Typically, our European honeybees travel 3 to 4 miles, okay? So those things are able to spread out and take over territory. Now, they spread in two different ways. One is they'll come into an area, and if they find a weak hive of European honeybees, they'll go in and they'll take over. They'll kill that queen and they'll just take over that colony. Or a lot of times they can also spread by the drones that are Africanized mating with the virgin queens on their mating flights, and then they come back and start laying eggs that are Africanized genes. Okay. So they're traveling around. They spread all through South America, Latin America, started making their way up into Mexico. Now, this is not that long ago, 1956, 1957 is when they escaped. The first time they were seen in America, or in the United States, I should say, was 1985. They showed up in San Joaquin, California. They think that they smuggled in on a ship. They were stowaways on a ship somehow. But that was the first time they were seen in the States. But by 1990, they arrived in Texas, in South Texas, via Mexico. Now, they stopped in Texas for quite a while. They stayed there. But in 1995, they turned up. They were seen in Arizona, New Mexico, Southern California. And then finally, they keep on spreading. And then in 2007, they were seeing them in New Orleans and in southern Utah. Okay, now Florida. Florida's a little different. For some reason, they stopped. They didn't really get down into the Gulf states too much. But they were first seen in Hillsborough, Florida in 2001. All right. A lot of the Gulf area has never seen the Africanized honeybees. Very interesting. So now they've pretty much spread out through South Florida, and they stop about St. Augustine. It's thought that even these bees don't like and tolerate the cold as well, but one of the main reasons they don't get further north and just spread up there and stay up there is they readily abscond. So they'll have a thriving hive, they'll have a thriving colony, and suddenly decide to leave. And the whole hive, queen and everybody, flies off, and they'll abandon their food supplies. You come down here in South Florida, and they can get away with that because there's plants blooming, even in the wintertime. But up north, a lot of times if they'll move to a place where there's not enough food supply, they'll starve. And that's pretty much what's confining them to the south at the moment. They may mutate further. We'll see. So Africanized honeybees, killer bees. Now, some of the things about them, Africanized honeybees are more varroa mite resistant than our European bees have. They spend more time grooming each other, and if they find a mite, they'll actually bite on it and take it off another bee. So that's one good thing about them. What else? Let's see. They're not as picky about the location that they swarm to, right? So our European honeybees, they'll swarm maybe 2 or 3 times in a year, each colony will. unless you take measures to stop them, and that's something beekeepers do, but a lot of times you just can't stop them from swarming sometimes. DC from our club often says it's like trying to prevent teenagers from having sex. They do what they do. But with Africanized bees, they swarm often. They swarm real often, travel farther. They are more defensive than our honeybees. Like I said before, if an Africanized honeybee stings you, they're going to die just like ours do. But the difference is, today is a rainy, kind of wet Florida day. I'm filming this between rain showers. I'm certainly not going to get into the bees on a day like this. They would not be happy about that at all. But if I were to mess with one of my hives, I might have 10 bees come out and attempt to sting me to prevent me from messing with their colony, okay? If I was to mess with an Africanized colony of honeybees, get hundreds of bees come out to fight me, okay? And they'll follow you a long ways too. Now, what do you do if you get into an encounter with Africanized bees? I'm going to break it down into two ways. I'm going to talk about beekeepers and non-beekeepers. I'll go with non-beekeepers first. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, they have a pamphlet talking about Africanized honeybees. And they said, first, get in a car, get in a structure, get in and close the door. If you get bees in there, it's better to have a few bees in there that you can maybe swat than to be outside where there's a whole swarm attacking you, all right? Run away in a straight line. Now, if I were to mess with my European honeybees today on this rainy day, overcast day, I'll get attacked and they will follow me. I can walk away from them, I can run away from them, and they'll follow me 100 feet, maybe 200 feet, and then they'll get busy doing other things. They got stuff they need to be doing. But Africanized honeybees, they'll follow you up to a quarter mile. So if you're a non-beekeeper, you're not prepared, you don't have your equipment, you don't have your safety, personal protective equipment, you run in a straight line and count on running at least a quarter mile or more. Here's a little video. This is taken from a movie called The Swarm, and it's on YouTube. You can check it out. But let's see if they do what they're supposed to do.
Hey, wait for Paul.
I can't, I'm starving.
Yeah, don't go outside. Okay, let's talk about beekeepers with Africanized honeybees, all right? Here in Florida, where I am, we have Africanized honeybees, okay? There's a lot of Africanized genes in this area. The U.S. Department of Agriculture does not want us to be beekeeping Africanized honeybees, okay? So the standard is, if I was to go out and catch a swarm, right? According to the Florida Department of Agriculture, I'm supposed to terminate the queen and put in a queen of known genetics. And so a lot of times when bees swarm, Africanized bees or European honeybees, when the bees swarm, they're on their best behavior. They've sucked up a lot of honey, so they got full stomachs, and they don't really have brood and honey to protect like they would in their hive. So when they swarm, they're not really interested in stinging people, and that includes Africanized honeybees, all right? So a lot of times you'll get a swarm and you'll pick them up and you'll put them in a colony. You'll put them in a box, bring them home to your yard, and they're real nice for a few days, and then they start getting mean. And you notice it, they're mean bees. Well, they've got some Africanized genes in them, and they're a little bit hot. It's not a big problem. All we have to do is requeen them. Requeen them. So you open the colony just like you would any other bunch of bees. You wear your protective equipment. You take out that queen and you pinch her head and you terminate her. All right? And then you put in a new queen. Now, queens live a lot longer than your worker bees do. So these worker bees, they live about 6 weeks and then they're gone. Now the queen lives much longer. So within a couple of months at most, all of those mean bees will be replaced by the children of this new queen as they grow up. So for us, because there's so many Africanized genes in this area, our queens will go out and mate on a mating flight, and they'll mate with maybe 30 drones. They'll mate with a lot of drones. So she may have some Africanized material in her, in amongst the drones that she's mated with. So you might have some beehives that will be a little bit hotter than others, and they may get hotter as time goes on. And again, the way to combat Africanized bees is to manage them. It's not a big problem. In Latin America, a lot of our brothers down south are beekeeping with Africanized honeybees. And in Africa, they're certainly beekeeping with African bees there. And it takes a few different techniques. You have to protect yourself better. You have to use more smoke than what we typically use. But for us here in South Florida, with the Africanized genes in this area, if we manage our bees, if we will change queens when it's time to change queens, we can manage Africanized bees. It's not a big problem. All right, well, that's what I had to say today. I hope you enjoyed our talk, and I'll see you on the next one.